How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about horror TV of 2021. So just a quick chance to go back and take a look at the horror TV shows that I've watched over the past year. And there's some really cool stuff in there, but before we get into this, I want to say a few things. That these are the horror TV shows that I watched, and I didn't watch every single show. Now, if I missed a show that you guys really liked, definitely feel free to leave me a recommendation. I'm always looking for more good horror TV shows. And also, if there's any upcoming shows for 2022 that you guys know about that look really good, definitely leave me a recommendation there. Shows that I did not watch, I know American Horror Story put out a new season. I liked the slasher season last year. That kind of drew me back in after having missed a few seasons. And I kind of meant to watch the new one. I just kind of didn't get around to it. If it was any good, let me know. I know they also did American Horror Stories, where it's like an anthology show, I think. I didn't see that one as well. So again, if it was good, let me know. Another one that I missed is Amazon Prime did an I Know What You Did Last Summer TV show, and I liked the original I Know What You Did Last Summer movie, but I saw the trailer for the new one, and the moment I saw that the killer was using emojis, I was out. Now, if it is good, let me know. I saw the trailer and it unsold me, so I don't think it looks very good, but if I'm wrong, let me know. Maybe I'll go back and check it out. I suppose I will eventually, because I like the source material and curiosity's just not going to let me stay away for that long, but it just really didn't look good. But anyway, going ahead and jumping into the shows that I did watch, I'm going to start off by talking about what I think is the biggest horror show of the year. I'm not ranking them, but I do want to start off with this one, because I think it is the biggest and the best, and that is obviously Chucky, the TV series on USA and SyFy. This one came out really, really good. I'm a big Chucky fan, and if you've seen the movies, definitely jump into this. The events of the movies do play into the last couple episodes, but you should be fine if you haven't seen all of them. For the most part, this is its own story. It's about this kid named Jake who is bullied and really feels like an outsider, and then he buys Chucky from a yard sale, who starts whispering in his ear and trying to turn him to the dark side. And the thing that makes this show work is character, 100%. You really get to know and feel for all the characters. And there's a character, Lexi, who is like the mean girl at school, and you start off just hating her, right? But that's the thing with the show, is by the end of the show, she becomes a character that you hope survives, It's one of these things that they really do put the time and effort into building their characters out, and that's what makes it into a successful TV show. And it's still a slasher. It's still very much Chucky. Luckily USA and SyFy lets him swear, so that's still in there, and there's still a bunch of kills. It's pretty much one kill per episode till you get to the latter few, so it's not, over-the-top insanity the whole time, but you have to have pacing for a TV show, and this really does have master pacing. It's about 4 times longer or so than your average Child's Play movie, but it never feels like it has a dull moment, and I can't recommend this show enough, If you haven't seen Chucky, and if you're a fan of the movies, if you're a fan of slashers, if you like horror, just watch Chucky, because it is definitely good. I guess after this, going from talking about a really good, pleasant surprise to one that came out kind of disappointing, this is another one that I've been covering on this channel, and that is Day of the Dead. Day of the Dead, based on the George A. Romero movie of the same name, but very loosely. The original movie was, I think, George A. Romero's most underrated zombie movie. If you haven't seen the original Romero movie, don't get any of the... I mean, you can watch the remakes, they're just not as good. Make sure you check out the original first. And if you look through the remakes, you know that them trying to do anything else with the Day of the Dead franchise hasn't really worked. And I was hoping that this would be their big break. But this is just one of those shows that keeps failing to start, you know. I was doing individual episode reviews, and it seemed like most of the episodes I was saying, okay, I think this show's going to really start getting good now. And then it would, you know, do something stupid or focus on a plot no one cared about. There's things like, you know, the original Romero zombies had some politics, but they were integrated well. Here, there's a really sloppy fracking message laid out on top of the show, and it never integrates well, and it turns into, like, there's a plot with this election for the town's new mayor that nobody cares about and gets way too much screen time, and it takes till, like, the end of episode 2 for most characters to realize they're even in a zombie show. It gets better towards the end, but when it gets towards the end, I'm like, this is where the show should have been from the beginning, and it just took way too long to get started. You know, I do want to say there is elements in the show I really do like. I really do like some of the characters, some of the humor lands, not all of it. And, you know, it's like, I like elements of the show, but it's like a car in a horror movie where it keeps almost starting, and it was, for the most part, frustrating. There is parts of the show that I like, but it's really not great. Moving right along, probably due to some weird pandemic delays, on Shudder, we actually got seasons 2 and 3 of Creepshow, which is really, really great. I haven't had a chance to watch 3 yet, but 2 was a really solid season. 2 was only 5 episodes this time around, but it was still really, really good. The highlight, obviously, of Season 2, they did an Evil Dead crossover episode where the Necronomicon appears on what's essentially an episode of Antiques Roadshow, and the Deadites want to read it aloud over the airwaves, and someone who's essentially Bob Ross has to come in and stop them. It's a classic episode, and if you're Evil Dead fans, you have to watch that one. There's another really good episode, the last one, where Justin Long invents a machine that will send him into movies, and they integrate him into Horror Express. That one was really fun as well. Overall, the Creepshow motto, the most fun you'll ever have being scared, definitely worked out right for Season 2, and I need to go and watch Season 3 pretty soon, but I haven't done that yet. Moving right along, Netflix. You had the show Midnight Mass, created by the same guy that did Haunting of Hill House and Bly Manor, Mike Flanagan, and this really does feel like a third season of that show, but this one doesn't have Ghost. It has a different creature, but it doesn't have Ghost, so you can't really call it Haunting. But basically, you get this pastor that shows up to replace their church's old pastor, but you know something's up with him, and there is a creature on this island. I won't spoil what it is, even though one of the show's thumbnails kind of does. But there is a creature, and it does get into big horror elements. At the beginning, it's slower and more contemplative, but it really does build to something, and I did like it. You know, this is a show where you get your main character who, after he was drunk and killed someone in a car accident, he's kind of lost his faith, and then you get several other people on the island, the pastor, his family, his old girlfriend, and they all have different views on faith, and some of them are quite contrasting. And overall, when you get Hollywood talking about religion, it's usually just a bad clone of Carrie's mother, and most of the time when I hear Hollywood's going to talk about religion, I assume it's going to be lazy and poorly written. But this show actually does look at the issue from several different sides and writes intelligently from multiple perspectives. I really did like this show, and it actually turned out way better than I thought it was. So I definitely say take a look at that. Also on Netflix, quite famously, we had Squid Game. Squid Game, a bunch of people desperate for money enter into a life and death competition in order to win a life-changing amount. Now, we've seen the killer game genre before, Hunger Games, Running Man, Rob Zombie's 31, but doing this for TV, it gave you more time to get to know the characters, more time to do games and focus on stuff, and this is a genre that worked out pretty well on TV. You really got to know several of the characters and their motivations, and when they die, and most of them do die, you feel a lot more for that, and there's some really heartbreaking moments in this show, and some really good games. You know, I know this has become one that lots of people talked about and recommended, but there really is something there, and if you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend checking it out. Also on Netflix, Lock and Key Season 2 did come out. Now, if you remember the first season, a family moves back into their dad's childhood home and discovers keys. There's different keys that, when you put them in the right lock, have different magical abilities. And they, of course, there's a demon that wants these keys, and there's several different rules and unique powers. And Season 2 does push that farther. There's lots of big, over-the-top, crazy, magical key moments, and lots of fun concepts. Now, if you read the original comic, they basically put it into a blender. Different pieces from different elements in the comic are told out of order and changed. So it's not the most faithful thing to the comic, but there is tons of imagination and energy behind this show, and it makes it really, really fun. So even though it's not super faithful, there's a lot of fun to be had. And you know, Netflix shows are usually so dark and serious. To see one that has big imaginative elements behind it, I really do gotta like that. Up next, I want to talk about Ghost. This is a horror comedy from the BBC, and this year its third season came out. Now, another thing that came out this year is the CBS American remake of the show, but I did not watch that. It looked pretty bad. I couldn't get past the previews, and you know, previews are your chance to sell someone on the show, but man, it unsold me again. I saw the previews for the American remake, I didn't want to touch it. But that being said, the original British one is pretty funny. It's a BBC show, and I think you can stream it on HBO Max. This lady, she has a near-death experience after she moves into her old family home, and now she can see the ghosts that live there. And the ghosts are from all different points in history. You get a caveman who's really funny, and the caveman's been there since forever, and he's been learning through the different ghosts about different, you know, points in history. And you also get like a 1980s businessman, and he's one of the few ghosts that can touch things. And then you get like an old-timey poet ghost that's really in love with the human lady. Lots of different stuff there, lots of different ghosts, and they all have their own personalities, and some of them have special abilities. But being in its third season, you really do get to know the cast pretty well, and you get to know the ghost personalities. There is an overarching plot this season about how she finds out that she might have a half-sister, and, you know, that's the plot, but for the most part, it is like a sitcom where every episode really does its own thing, and the longer it goes, the more you get to know the characters, and, you know, they're all obsessed with this one lady, because she's the only one that can see them and the only one that can do stuff for them. And this season is really just you know, the longer a sitcom goes, the more it grows on you, so it, you know, feels better each time around. There was one episode I really liked where they're fumigating the house, so they have to camp outside, and they're sitting around the campfire with all the ghosts, and one of them goes, "So, do you know any scary ghost stories?" And that just, I think that was my favorite joke of the season. Overall, pretty fun. And if you already watched the show, a new Christmas episode did drop recently, a Christmas special. So I'd recommend checking that out if you haven't. Moving along to another horror comedy, Wellington Paranormal. Wellington Paranormal is a New Zealand show, I believe. And basically in New Zealand, there's been enough strange happenings that the chief of police decides to create a special unit, although it's new, so there's only 2 people in it, a new unit to go out and track down paranormal activity. So it's these 2 officers who play it really, really straight. They play it so super serious that when ghosts do something wacky, it's just hilarious. And definitely gotta like this show. This season, you get to know the characters better. Like I said, with sitcoms, the longer they go, the more you're familiar with their personalities. But also, there's a little bit bigger budget. You know, it's not just Ghost. There's like a technology monster that lives in old discarded tech. So like your cell phone from high school, he's living in that. There's another one where they're fighting the ghost of an old cop, which leads to one of my favorite jokes in the series, where they're talking about how this cop, even though he's dead, is still on duty enforcing outdated laws. And one of the officers goes, "Wait, when I die, do I have to keep working?" And that was just a really funny line when he's like, "Wait, do I have to keep going after I die?" And overall, you know, more of a budget, more of an understanding of these characters. Yeah, this is one of those shows that, you know, over the season has maintained its momentum and gotten a bit better. If you like horror comedies, you know, it's found footage style like Cops is. So you're following the characters around, and I do like they actually address, you know, every now and then you see the boom mic because, you know, it's found footage. The cameras are really there. And that was one thing that bugged me about, you know, shows like The Office or Parks and Rec, where they never address the cameras. I like that they do actually from time to time address them. And overall, it's a pretty fun show. Moving right along, The Walking Dead Season 11 Part 1 aired this year. And this, I believe, is the show's final season. The show's had some ups and downs, but after they introduced Negan, the show did seem to be getting a little better, and there were some surprises along the way that only the show did, like Carol and Daryl. And the show, it's been going on for so long, and yeah, there have been ups and downs, but something that's been so big and such a big part of my life for more than a decade now, it's really sad to see it go, and I am really curious how it's all going to wind up. If you haven't seen the show yet, I'd say at least check out Season 1. It's only 6 episodes, and you can view it like a mini-series. Season 1 was a classic, so I definitely recommend at least checking that out if you haven't seen it. And if you really like it and you're on for, and you want to go along for the ride, well, there's 10 more seasons after that, and I am really curious to see where we wind up. Moving right along, I think this is the last one I have to talk about. Also on Netflix, we have the show Elves. Elves is a Christmas show, although it's not super heavy into the Christmas theme, but a family goes to an island to celebrate Christmas, and there's a big walled-off area, which of course has the elves in it. The elves, eventually, one of their babies gets out, and the girl picks up the baby, and it's of course a cute little baby elf, and she wants to hide it in the barn and keep it, but the adult elves are going to be angry that one of their babies is missing. It sadly doesn't go all the way to like that over-the-top Gremlins level that I was hoping it would, but it's still a pretty fun show, and it's only 6 episodes, and they're all only about 22 minutes more or less, so you can watch the whole show and it'll be like a slightly longer movie. And it's worth checking out, you know, if you're still in that winter festive spirit. There's a lot to like here, even if it doesn't go crazy and over the top. I still had lots of fun with Elves. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. If you know of any shows this year that I missed that you think I would like, particularly horror-related, go ahead and tell me in the comments. And if you're looking forward to a show coming out in 2022 that you want me to check out, leave me a comment and I might. Anyway, I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my TV shows playlist. You can see me talk about a whole bunch of different shows there. Sometimes they're full seasons, sometimes I do individual episodes. I've done individual episodes for Creepshow. I'm going through Tales from the Dark Side right now, and I have a bunch of those. And I'm also going to be starting pretty soon individual episodes reviews for Hammer House of Horrors. So if you want to see me talk about more TV, there'll be that playlist at the bottom. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. TV shows playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.